Hey guys, what's up? My name is Shanwein and today pag-usapan natin ang issue ng West Philippine Sea. Pag-usapan din natin kung sino-sino ba ang dapat nagsasalita patungkol sa issue ng West Philippine Sea. Maliban pa kay PBBM, sino-sino pa kaya ang dapat nagsasalita patungkol sa disputes natin dyan sa West Philippine Sea?
Let's talk about the fight over the South China Sea. It's rich in oil and gas, there are loads of fish, and the shipping lanes are some of the busiest in the world. China wants control of it.
坚持以对话弥合分歧，以谈判化解争端。我们不追求一枝独秀。
But other countries say they have rights to it too. And the Americans, well, they have trade routes through there worth hundreds of billions of dollars.
The U.S. has been committed to the idea of freedom of the seas, and nowhere is that under greater threat than in the South China Sea.
So what's behind China's claim over these waters? Why won't it share? And could it all lead to war? China has been a land-based power for millennia, so it's never had much of a navy, not like the colonial powers, nor has China needed one until now. Today, China wants to be a naval force across two oceans, the Indian and the Pacific. That's to make sure it can trade with the rest of the world and get enough oil and gas to drive its economy. And to do that, Beijing wants to control the South China Sea. But there's a lot of competition. Taiwan, for one, claims many of the same rights that China does. Then there's Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei. They want to protect their turf, whether it's rights to islands, seabed oil, or fishing grounds. Indonesia's in there too, and the Americans, they want to protect those valuable shipping lanes. So no shortage of players. The question is, how is this all going to be resolved?
There are three futures for the South China Sea. The one that is
Okay guys, among those na minention na countries, maniwala ba kayo sa hindi na none of them is tinutulungan ng Pilipinas para dyan sa dispute na yan? They don't want to talk about it. They don't even want to make any dispute with China whatsoever. Much more na ginagawa ng Pilipinas. Kung yung mga head of states ng mga countries na yan, ayaw niya magsalita, ang ginigipit ninyo, ang pinipilit niyo si VP Sara. Ano ba magagawa? Ito na lang tanong ko sa inyo guys. Ano ba magagawa ng opinion ni VP Sara kahit hindi nakamandato sa kanya bilang isang Vice President or DepEd Secretary? Kahit isama niyo pa yung kanyang pagiging co-chairman sa NTF-ELCAC. Diba? Kung yung mga head of states na ibang country hindi nagsasalita. So, ang ginagawa ni PBBM. Imagine niyo yung mga gustong tumulong sa atin na countries hindi pa member ng ASEAN. Yung mga kapitbahay nating bansa, hindi nagbibigay ng kahit anong opinion tungkol sa nangyayari na dispute ng Pilipinas sa West Philippine Sea. Kung yun sila kaya ang mag-demand kayo, na tulungan naman ng Pilipinas. 'Di ba? Sa territorial dispute niyan. Meron din naman sila territorial dispute and yet we do not hear anything from them. Bakit hindi nila tinutulungan ng Pilipinas patungkol doon? Bakit pupunta pa si PBBM sa Europe, sa US? 'Di ba? Even sa Australia. Bakit hindi niya makuha ang suporta ng other ASEAN countries tungkol dito sa dispute, knowing that we are not the only country na involved dito sa mga disputes na to. Dahil yung 9-dash line ng China, kinakain din nila yung mga areas din, itong mga countries na nabanggit dito sa video na to. 'Di ba? Sino ba ang dapat merong salita, merong opinion tungkol sa nangyayari dito sa West Philippine Sea? Yung mga heads of state doon sa mga countries na nabanggit o si VP Sara na hindi naman mandato sa kanya na magsalita siya tungkol sa foreign policy? Kung tutusin, nakatanggap-tanggap lang talaga na magsalita tungkol dyan sa foreign policy natin maliban kay PBBM, ang DFA. 'Di ba? Tapos magde-demand kayo kay VP Sara. Gawin niyo siyang secretary ng DFA. Yan, sabi ko na dyan. Gawin yung DFA secretary ngayon si VP Sara. Para magkaroon ng valid reason yung mga demand ninyo na siya ay magsalita tungkol dito sa issue ng West Philippine Sea.
It looks headed toward now is, of course, China will just get Southeast Asian countries to sigh and accept its claims. The one that everybody really wants to avoid is a conflict.
And then there's the third option, which involves pushing some kind of compromise between China and its neighbors.
And take note of this.
Countries like Taiwan and others that are members of ASEAN have tried, but no one expects that to go anywhere anytime soon.
See? Dahil matigas nga ulo ng China eh. Do you really expect magpo-compromise ng China sa mga neighboring countries niya? Hindi nga niya nirespeto, sinunod yung desisyon patungkol sa sovereign right natin dyan sa West Philippine Sea. Mag-compromise pa kaya? Ano ito, joke?
Because China knows what it wants, and it's been working towards that for a long time.
Exactly. Alam niyo ba, based on history, no? Sa mga nabasa kong article at napanood kong video, since the time of Apulacay, pinababantayan niya ng Spratly Islands. For some reason, tinanggal yung mga bantay ng Spratly Islands noong panahon ni Cory Aquino. Bakit? Diba? Bakit? Siguro kung nagstay pa yung mga guard na yon, kinip lang yon doon sa Spratly Islands, malamang we don't have this kind of dispute.
Long time. We're talking about China's 9-dash line. Back in 1929, the Chinese took a bunch of old British sailing charts and told cartographers to draw China's borders. One of them drew 9 dashes around the entire South China Sea. And as far as the Chinese were concerned, that was that.
I'll show you one book coming from sabi dito, The Historical Facts of the Philippine Sea. Okay? Justice Antonio Carpio debunks China's historical claim of the South China Sea. Historical facts of in the WPS. China had always asserted that its 9-dash line claim is based on international law. Thus, in 2002 ASEAN-China Declaration of Conduct, China agreed that the maritime disputes in the South China Sea shall be resolved in accordance with universally recognized principles of the international law, including the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. There is no mention whatsoever in 2002 ASEAN-China Declaration of the Conduct that historical facts shall also be a basis in resolving a maritime dispute. Okay? Ayan. After the Philippines filed January 2013 the arbitration case against China before an international tribunal invoking UNCLOS to protect the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines, China stressed historical facts as another basis for its maritime claims in the South China Sea. China's mantra now states that China's 9-dash line claim is based in the words of Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi on historical facts and international law. General Fang Fengyu, Chief of Staff of the People's Liberation Army, recently declared during his visit in the United States territory passed down by the previous Chinese generations that the present one will not be forgotten or sacrificed. Chinese diplomats now declare that they will not give 1 inch of territory that their ancestors bequeathed them. 2 weeks ago, during the Shangri-La Regional Security Forum in Singapore, Chinese spokesperson, former Deputy Foreign Minister Feng Ying, declared that the island of the South China Sea were first discovered by China hundreds of years before they were occupied by Japan during the World War II. Feng Ying stressed that China has a very clear claim to these islands without, however, giving any specifics Chinese leaders and Chinese citizens were entered school after 1947. The year Nanda's line map was drawn have been thought that China has an historical rights to the South China Sea. This is of course false and merely constitute a state propaganda. But unfortunately, the Chinese people now believe in this propaganda as historical facts. Okay, ngayon balikan natin to. So basically, 1947 lang nangyari yon. Kaya hindi na siguro questionable kung bakit nung time ni Apo Lakay, pinabantayan niya na ang Spratly Island.
Over the last 70 plus years, the line's taken on a life of its own. And in Beijing, at least, the meaning has steadily expanded so that today, China's not just claiming the islands inside it, it's claiming all the waters, all the seabed, all the airspace.
So then in 2013, China added a 10th line to take in Taiwan.
Take note, 2013. Okay. 2013 pa pala yung 10th line. Knowing that, very recent, ako personally, very recent ko lang narinig yung tungkol dyan sa 10th line na yan. When I say recent, about a year ago lang. Or less.
Its appetite seems to be growing. It's easy enough to understand why China wants control when you look at the numbers. Around 40% of the world's liquefied natural gas passes through the South China Sea, from the Gulf, through the Indian Ocean, and onto places like China. The amount of trade that sails through there is worth $3 trillion a year, 1/3 of the world total.
Being able to control this waterway, what we normally call sea lines of communication, is extremely important for China.
So there's an expression in Latin that goes, if you want peace, prepare for war. Now, China has no immediate interest in war, but it wants to ensure its access to the South China Sea if it comes to that.
Ngayon, kung kayo mga nakatira dito sa areas na to, ng Palawan, ng Zambales, ng Pangasinan, itong area na to, kung kayo mga nakatira dito, kayo ba, tanungin ko, interesado ba kayo sa war? Ha? Doon sa mga lugar na may EDCA, interesado kayo sa war? Hindi nyo ba alam na kung tayo papasok sa war, there's a very big possibility na una nila syempreng tatanggalin dyan isang mga EDCA sites. Syempre, dyan nakastation ng mga Amerikano eh. Maliban dyan, kung magkaroon ng war here, sino unang tatamaan? Mga taga-Palawan, Pangasinan, Zambales, at itong areas na to. Plus the EDCA sites. Ready ba kayo? Diba?
In the west, the main shipping lane from the Indian Ocean narrows to just 3 kilometers, and it's surrounded by American allies. In the east, there's Taiwan, which has tons of American weapons and could block China from getting to the Pacific. So to help stake its territorial claim, China has planted its flag on contested islands that are in those waterways. In the Paracels, China's built a bunch of outposts, while in the Spratlys, it's added over 13 square kilometers of reclaimed land since 2013 and turned them into military bases.
The militarization of the South China Sea has grown rapidly over the last 5, 6, 7 years. It has come to a point where it's unacceptable for the United States.
It may be unacceptable to the Americans, but neither the Obama nor the Trump administrations are seen to have accomplished much. The US's main way of asserting navigational rights and freedoms is having its navy sail through the South China Sea. It also conducts military exercises in the region, sometimes with warships from France, Japan, and Australia in the Bay of Bengal. In July, things got a bit hairy. The Chinese and Americans both held naval exercises in the South China Sea.
Worsening tensions between China and the United States.
The U.S. sailed in with 2 aircraft carrier strike groups.
It's the first time Washington sent 2 carriers for drills in the area since 2014.
And the Chinese accused the Americans of escalating things. Before the U.S. elections, the Trump team gave it one last shot with mixed results.
Don't let the Chinese Communist Party walk over us. You should have confidence that America will be here in friendship to help you.
美国才是本地区和平稳定的破坏者 和麻烦制造者。
What everyone's been trying to do is get China to obey the law, namely the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. The law establishes what are called exclusive economic zones. These extend 200 nautical miles out from a country's coastline, regardless of whether it's the mainland or an island. And China signed up to that law.
All of the world came together, including China, in the 1970s and negotiated the current regime of maritime law, which says everybody gets the same set of maritime claims. China's claims don't fit within that framework.
So the Philippines did the only thing it could. It took China to court. One of the big issues was fishing rights.
For millions of Filipinos living in coastal communities like this one, food security is at the heart of the South China Sea dispute.
In 2013, the Philippines argued that China had no right to the Scarborough Shoal. It filed a case against the Chinese with an international tribunal at The Hague. Judges ended up siding with the Philippines. Remember China's territorial claim based on that 9-dash line? Well, in 2016, the court concluded that it's invalid.
When after China lost a landmark arbitration case before the Philippines, Beijing realized that the best way to divert attention from that and avoid diplomatic blowback would be to show some progress.
Since the 1990s, ASEAN, that association of South Asian countries, has tried to cobble together a code of conduct for the South China Sea. The idea was to control China's ambitions. China hadn't shown much interest in a code back then, but after losing the case with the Philippines, the Chinese started to push for one, though some in ASEAN questioned China's motives.
Honestly and unfortunately, I don't think there is any fertile ground for reaching an agreement.
It's not trying to solve anything, right? The code of conduct will not say who owns what rock. It won't say whose maritime claims go where. It's meant to manage dispute.
There's another problem. Not everyone in ASEAN is eager to offend a country as powerful as China.
Ulitin natin guys Pakinggan nyo itong mabuti.
Not everyone in ASEAN is
Not everyone in ASEAN is eager to offend a country.
eager to offend a country as powerful as China.
See? Yung laban natin sa West Philippine Sea within ASEAN is laban natin alone. Yung head of state ng ASEAN member countries,
Not everyone in ASEAN is eager to offend.
hindi ba itong mga leaders na to, mga head of states na to, sila yung magsalita tungkol sa ginagawa rin ng China sa kanila. We're not the only country affected by this. Even those countries, affected din sila. Pero bakit tayo lang ang lumalaban? Tapos hahanap tayo ng tulong sa ibang country. At hindi pa sa neighboring country natin. Tapos gusto niyo magsalita si VP Sara tungkol sa ginagawa ng China. For what? Will that change anything? O mas makikita pa natin na nakikisaw-saw si VP Sara sa isang bagay na hindi naman mandated sa kanya? Hindi mandated sa kanya ang magsalita regarding sa mga ganitong bagay at hindi lalong mandated sa kanya as the DepEd Secretary? Dapat bang makailam si VP Sara sa foreign issues? Kung nandiyan naman si PBBM, bakit hindi na lang natin hayaan si PBBM at saka ang DFA magsalita tungkol dito? Bakit instead na kalampagin natin si VP Sara, kalampagin natin yung neighboring countries natin na affected din ng ginagawa ng China? Diba? O, ulitin natin sinabi rito.
Offend a country is. There's another problem. Not everyone in ASEAN is eager to offend a country as powerful as China.
Certain members of the grouping, particularly Cambodia, but also Laos, at times Thailand, have really no desire to irritate China.
Have no desire to irritate China. Tayo lang. Philippines lang. So dahil ba hindi tayo makakuha ng kakampi sa mga neighboring countries natin na dapat nagsasalita rin, lalagyan natin ng pressure o magdedemand tayo kay VP Sara na magsalita patungkol dito, knowing that yung mga head of state sa mga countries na to have no desire to irritate China.
And so this means a whole heck of a lot to 4 of the members, 5 maybe, and almost nothing to the other 5. And that's a recipe for no progress.
Exactly. Kung yung mga neighboring countries nga natin ayaw magsalita, anong mangyayari sa opinion ni VP Sara? Kung magsalita siya, para lang siyang tanga kung magsasalita siya tungkol dito. Diba? Ang ini-insinuate nyo lang kasi, ito lang ini-insinuate nyo guys, no? Dahil sinusuportahan ko, no, ng mga Duterte ang mga Chinese. Obviously, magkaiba si VP Sara at saka ang kanyang ama na si PRRD. Ilan na yung nakita ko na ini-interview sa kanya. Nag-agree ba siya sa mga sinabi ng mga kapamilya niya? Baste, no? Mayor Baste, PRRD. Dinefend niya ba yung mga sinabi ng mga kapamilya niya? Hindi. Diba? Yung mga issues ni PBBM, dinepensahan niya ba? Yung may issue sa kanya, dinepensahan ba siya ni PBBM? Diba? Tapos gusto niyo makikisaw-saw si VP Sara sa issue ng West Philippine Sea. When in fact, sa position niya, hindi mandated sa kanya magbigay ng kahit anong opinion patungkol sa nangyayari. No? Hindi nga siya nagbibigay ng mga opinion tungkol sa mga travels ni PBBM. Pero gusto niyo magkaroon siya ng opinion. O ngayon, na alam niyo na yung mga neighboring countries natin doesn't want to irritate China. Ano ang pakiramdam niyo?
Vietnam has repeatedly butted heads with China over their competing claims.
The last time there was a real talk was in Dalat, Vietnam, and the Vietnamese delegation blew up the whole process because they were so angry over recent harassment of oil and gas operations by China that had gone on at the same time. So they'll say that there's progress. I would encourage everybody to take that with a giant grain of salt.
This year's ASEAN summit was hosted by Vietnam, and a lot of it by video because of the pandemic. But the social distancing wasn't expected to help delegates reach any agreements on the South China Sea.
We express serious concern over ongoing developments that infringe on the lawful rights of littoral countries.
The problem with the South China Sea is that it's vast and the stakes are high. There are a lot of heavily armed countries defending their interests there. And China's Coast Guard, as well as Chinese militia using fishing boats, often cause confrontations on the open sea. Many analysts worry about all of that provoking a military response from someone. But strangely enough, the whole dispute also sort of just bubbles away under the radar.
The South China Sea is so insidious. It is hard to keep attention on it, not just within Washington, but all of the other global partners and allies. Somebody is always going to be distracted or find it not all that important.
The Chinese see the South China Sea as essential to their survival. Thing is, it's important to everyone there. That's why this whole dispute isn't going away. But China's been around for thousands of years. If anyone's good at playing the long game, it's China.
Actually, there's another video here, no? Panoorin nyo na lang. Dapat ba tayo makialam sa West Philippine Sea? This is a video coming from Christian Esguerra. Okay. And 4 years ago lang to. Itong kay Al Jazeera, 3 years ago. I highly recommend din na yung usahin niyo yung historical facts. Yan, historical facts, historical lies, and historical rights in the West Philippine Sea. This is by Justice Antonio Carpio. There is also an article coming from Rappler. It was written in 2016. There's another article here coming from the Foreign Service Institute. It doesn't say kung kailan sinulat. Excuse me. And then there's another one here. Again, from Al Jazeera. My point here, guys, is that, number one, I fully support the government when it comes sa pagpoprotekta ng West Philippine Sea. But the only thing that I will agree with you is dapat si PBBM at saka ang DFA nagsasalita. Kung meron man third party dyan or third person in the equation, in the story, ang defense. Other than sa kanilang tatlo, wala na dapat nagsasalita. No? Within our administration. Unfortunately, tayo lang ang maingay sa disputes. Pero hindi lang tayo ang may dispute sa West Philippine Sea. As you have seen naman from the video, there are other countries na may dispute. Pero ayaw nila ng gulo. They don't want, that's what they have said here. They do not want to irritate China. They do not want to offend China. Kaya laban lang natin to. So, anong ginagawa ni PBBM? Maliban sa kanyang mga state visit, do you really think economic lang ang pinag-uusapan niya? But definitely, yung mga dispute tungkol dito. Kung meron man tayo dapat bigyan ng pressure, yung pressure bigay natin sa country, sa mga head of states ng mga neighboring countries natin. Kasi iba ang magiging result pag sila na ang nagsalita. More so with VP Sara. And take note, hindi ko kailangan i-defend si VP Sara. Wala naman reason para i-defend ko rin siya. Tsaka hindi naman lampay yung tao eh. Diba? Paulit-ulit na sinasabi sa atin ni PBBM. Kaya nga hindi daw niya dinidefend si VP Sara because he knows that VP Sara can take care of herself. Pero sa kalinawan lang ng lahat, kaya tayo nagbibigay ng commentary video tungkol dito. Diba? Kung ibang countries nga ayaw magsalita, tayo lang nakikipaglaban eh. Ide-demand yung kay VP Sara na magsalita for what? Ibibigay nga tayo ng komento sa mga bagay-bagay, lalong-lalo na hindi natin alam bakit nga tayo nagko-komento. Wala lang, kasi news eh. Kasi mainit na balita. Pero even before we make some comments, don't you think dapat naiintindihan din natin kung ano yung punot dulo ng mga issues na yan? Sino ba talaga dapat ang mga involved na tao dyan? Kaya pag naaalala ko na naman, alam mo yung nangyari last year? Tungkol sa Gaza. Hindi, tungkol sa Gaza war. Anong stand ng Pilipinas? Let's stay neutral between issue ng Ukraine at saka ng issue ng Ukraine at saka ng Russia. Then all of a sudden, si VP Lenny at that time was siding sa Ukraine. Imagine the disaster. And sa dinami-dami rin naman ng mga sinasabi ni PBBM, isang beses lang nagpo-post si VP Sara. It was about what? Pagbibigay niya ng amnesty sa CPP, NPA, NDF. Diba? Yun lang. Maliban nun, wala na. Never siyang nakailam kay PBBM maliban doon sa usapin ng amnesty para sa CPP, NPA, NDF. Di ba? Tapos gusto niyo ngayon magsalita si VP Sara, magbigay siya ng comment niya. Hindi naman talaga comment niya gusto niyo eh. Diba? Let's just be honest. Hindi naman comment niya ang gusto niya. Ini-insinuate niyo lang na kaya hindi nagbibigay ng comment si VP Sara because involved on China. As we speak, we still do business with China. As we speak, marami pa rin mga Chinese ang nakatira sa Pilipinas. Yung Chinese New Year nga, batin pa si F. Elise. Diba? Maliban dyan, kapatid din si Senator Aimee sa Chinese New Year celebration ng mga Filipino-Chinese. Yun lang naman ang ano nyo dun eh. You're just trying to insinuate something else more than sa issue ng China. Diba? And for the record, no, doon sa nag-comment tungkol na kaya ko daw sinisiraan si Raffy Tulfo. Hindi ko po sinisiraan si Raffy Tulfo. May kaiba po yung sinisiraan sa kritiko. Ni-emphasize ko lang yung mali niyang ginagawa. At hindi ko kailangan siraan si Raffy Tulfo. Dahil sa mga ginagawa ni Raffy Tulfo, siya lang naman ang nasisira doon. Diba? Lahat ng taong nag-iisip, lahat ng matatalinong tao, alam ko ano yung ginagawa ni Raffy Tulfo. Whether yan mali o tama na. Oh. Diba, dumadami na ngayon ang kritiko niya. Do you really think yung ginagawa ni Raffy Tulfo kay Atty. Libayan hindi magbabackfire kay Raffy Tulfo in the long run? Well, let's see. Let's see. Paulit-ulit ko na sinasabi hindi kailangan siraan si Raffy Tulfo. Dahil sa maraming Pilipino, matagal na siyang sira.